Thank you all for being here. I know it's a tough week with back to school and end of summer plans and so forth, but it's a very important subject, and we are very, very grateful that friends and colleagues that we have worked with for many years now on the issue of frack gas and fracking bans and gas infrastructure are here. Let me introduce myself. I am Nicole Dillingham. I live here in Otsego County. I'm also board president of Otsego 2000. Been involved in stopping fracking for probably a decade now. I recognize many of you who are here are friends and have been in this fight with us. And we are very lucky to have tonight Vera Scroggins, who is here and lives very close to where the gas extraction fields are and in Pennsylvania. And she is one of the first people who raised the alert about the bomb trucks carrying fracked gas from Pennsylvania into Otsego County and beyond. And of course we have Bill Huston, who is a researcher who has worked so hard on this issue and on all fracking and gas infrastructure projects. He is responsible for many of the images you're going to see. He's done incredible research on the subject. You can find more information on his website, which I believe is #bombtrucks. And he'll correct me if I'm wrong, if there's a different. And of course we have our presenter, Craig Stevens, who lives in Silver Lake. His family home was in Silver Lake, Pennsylvania, apparently just across the road from Forest Lake, Pennsylvania. And this industry made the huge mistake of building one of these gas infrastructure, gas compression stations, basically across the street from Craig's longtime family home. And Craig and Vera one day decided what is going on in our community and decided to follow the trucks and literally follow them from Pennsylvania into New York State, through Oneonta, on Route 205, and through Otsego County, and up to Mannheim. And that's how we found out what is really going on. They've made videos, they've done incredible work, and you will hear from them. Let me just add that while we started focusing on this issue, concerned about the so-called bomb trucks being driven up from Pennsylvania to Mannheim, and I want to talk a little bit about the Mannheim situation before I go on. So the Mannheim fueling station was permitted in 2014 as a place where trucks could come to draw gas out of the Iroquois pipeline. And they built a station to take compressed gas out of that pipeline, put it into their trucks, and deliver it to customers, manufacturers or hospitals or schools, whatever, in the Northeast. It was never permitted as a place where they would deliver gas for injection into that pipeline. That was never one of the considerations. It was not disclosed as part of the secret proceedings. None of the neighboring towns were notified. We think this is a gross violation of our secret law, and this really should be something that the Attorney General is interested in. So we're obviously concerned. First, initially we were concerned about the bomb trucks carrying compressed natural gas up from Pennsylvania to Mannheim. But just recently in this community, our local IDA has submitted a grant application to have a decompression station installed in one of Oneonta's industrial parks. I'm a little bit vague on this because the application is vague on it. They identify 7 potential places where this infrastructure could be installed over 2 or 3 counties. But one of the main places is the industrial park here in Oneonta. So how will they supply this industrial development? Through tractor trailers bringing in gas, a 25% increase in gas deliveries to Oneonta through trucking. And they plan to build pipelines and infrastructure to receive the gas here in Oneonta. So immediately we have now a very urgent problem here in our own community. And of course, this is a NYSEG project. NYSEG wants to have the ratepayers pay for the cost of these installations. So they started out projecting it to be $1 million, and then it went to $5 million, then it went to $15 million. Now it's at $17.5 million. And this will all be borne by the ratepayers, according to NYSEG. So the residents of Oneonta actually pay for the installations that benefit these industrial developments. So we're very concerned about this. We have, there's a strategy being developed to alert our local government about it, and certainly our IDA has started to hear from us about this. Just so you know, the grant application itself is entirely flawed. The executive director of the IDA who submitted the grant application admitted that the numbers in the application are ridiculous. That's a direct quote. This was presented to the town of Oneonta board. So you have the executive director of the Otsego County IDA, known as Otsego Now, admitting that he submitted an application based on numbers which are ridiculous and are not reliable. He also certified that the IDA has $1,075,000 to put into this project, which we know the IDA does not have. So he misstated the facts. Interestingly, when asked how many jobs he thought this project might create for Oneonta, he answered 0. When asked how many employees does the applicant have, the IDA, he answered 900. That's about 898 more employees than he actually has. He clearly was submitting an application where the initial applicant might have been NYSEG, but this is the kind of basically incompetent application that was submitted by the Otsego County IDA. I raised this with the Otsego Board of Legislatures only today, urging them to have the IDA withdraw the application. So this is the background. This is why we are here tonight, and don't be disturbed that our numbers are not so great. The fracking battle started small too. We will grow in number, and we will stop these projects, and we're going to hear now why especially they are so dangerous on our local roads. So Vera, I think we are going to start with you talking to us a little bit about what you see on the roads of Pennsylvania and how your life has been impacted by the so-called bomb trucks. So would you please come up, Vera Scroggins from Pennsylvania.
Hello, everyone. I live next door to it as far as town, so it's about 5 miles from my home, and I pass by it on the road to New York, besides other roads. My children lived on that road after it was built. It was built in 2017. My daughter lived on that road with the 2 grandchildren, and luckily they moved off and went into New York. So the bomb trucks, or the compressed gas carrying trucks, are coming from a country road, a country setting, next to a lake, Forest Lake, where I have friends that live there. I initially was called by people that I know there when they put in their application or their letters to the local supervisor of the town, and they told them, we're planning to build this besides going to the planning commission. And so the people had a meeting with the supervisors, and they were very upset. They're concerned also, besides safety, their property values, because it's a lake community. And you have a country setting, you have fields around it, you have houses next to it. It's 10 acres. And they built this facility despite protest. We have no zoning to speak of. Nothing can really stop it. And they built it in 2017. So I smell it when I go by. They use mercaptan as an odorizer. So when I go by, I smell it. My window is down, you can pick up the odors. I went to the nearby homes recently, asked the people, do you smell it? Yes, we do. I told them, you can do something. You need to call your regulatory agencies, the DEP, EPA, gave them numbers. You must call when you smell. You're not supposed to smell it. It's a toxic poison gas. So they have children there, they have animals right next door. We have no minimum distances for an industrial building or business. We don't have industrial parks like you have here in Oneonta. They just plop it in a field and next to homes, and then they use the roads, all windy, hilly, and of course we had accidents almost right away. We had rollovers in February 2017, and we've had about 5 more since then in Pennsylvania and New York. I smell them when I follow the trucks. When they're in front of me, they're leaking. When they pass by me, there's a trail of odor of the mercaptan. This is going into our air. We've called all kinds of agencies. Nobody seems to want to do much of anything. DEP came every time I called, and they test for leaks, and they found leaks, and they told them you have to do something to fix it, which they did at different times, and then it would start again. After a couple of weeks, after a month, the leaking started again. So I'm concerned. It passes by schools, my former children's elementary school, it passes right by. And of course, it's about 8 miles into New York. Then it passes. I followed the trucks at one point in, I think it was May of 2017, a 2.5-hour trip. I didn't know where it was going, but I followed them on the main roads, on the side roads, on the country roads, on the lake roads, until it came to Mannheim. When I came to Mannheim, I parked my car there, and I went in through, I stood at the front gate. It was open, and I smelled odors so strong that it took about 15 minutes. I became ill. And this is the first time I've been in front of so many installations. We have 52 compressor stations just in my county. I've been in front of them for 15 minutes, half hour. I would get a little bit ill, but nothing like this, that I had trouble walking. I was hoping I didn't faint, but I kept going. I went across the road and spoke to the people that live there, and they told me that they get sick from it, they get sick from the odors, they're trying to sell their home, and they haven't been able to. Then I walked through the gate, and I went right in. Nobody stopped me. I had my camera with me, as I usually do, and I talked to the workers in the back where there's a warehouse, and I went through into the offices looking for people to question them. What is going on here? Where is this gas going? And then they told me, and they said, well, you see that pipeline over there? It's the Iroquois, and we put it right into the pipeline. I said, oh, that's okay, thank you, thanks for letting me know. And you could see the trucks coming in and out, and then I staggered out of there. And then, took more video from the outside besides the inside. This is going on. We've been trying to stop it. We've thought of everything we could. And I know that New York is our last bastion of help. If you can stop these trucks at the border, and also New England, because they tell me they go into New England also. If you can stop it, I hope then they'll bankrupt them, and they can't make the money they need, and they'll be out of business. But the problem is now, 2 more companies have come in and filed applications in my county for the same thing. And one of them is from Fenton, New York. They were in Fenton, New York, NG Advantage. NG Advantage got kicked out of Fenton, New York by the citizens of Fenton. And now they're in my county. They bought 62 acres, and they want to do the same thing that they were kicked out of in Fenton. And that's about a few miles south of this plant. And then another plant is being proposed to the east part of our county. So you're talking 3 points with dozens of trucks, whether it's 50 to 100 trucks per day. And they're going to be going into New York. They won't even tell us at this point. I say, where are you going? They won't tell us, because I know it's got to be New York. and New England. So this is the situation. They are potentially risky. You're talking a poison, explosive gas, and we need to do what we can to stop it. And thank you for coming and whatever you can do to help, because we see them on the road every day, and I just passed them on the way here on Route 88. So I'm sick of seeing them. I don't want them near us. We've had accidents right in front of our homes. They had to turn off the electricity. They had to evacuate people, and it makes little news. So how much can we go through? We right now have 1,600 gas wells in my county. They're still fracking. They're still drilling. We have over 500 gas pads. We have 52 compressor stations and all kinds of other infrastructure. It's endless. They want to fill every piece of land and take out every ounce of gas. So we're being gassed. The air is changing, the water is changing. So our health is impacted, and what are we going to do? All I'm hoping for is they'll go bankrupt, that it's a Ponzi scheme and they'll crash. And then we can go to alternatives. Thank you very much.
Evening, everybody. Craig Stevens, as Nicole said, thank you, Nicole, for introducing me. First of all, I'd like to have everybody give another round of applause to Vera, please, and I'll tell you why. She told us about it in 2015 when they were trying to propose this. Nobody knew what it was. Vera then, after they got it through, when the truck started rolling, Vera followed them. She told me, I don't want to drive all the way to, but she did it. So what I'm telling you is, she's the reason we even knew anything about these. But the first people that knew were the people in the neighborhoods here that had the trucks going past their houses and wondered, what is this? So as Nicole said, I'm a sixth-generation landowner. My family's been on the same corner in Silver Lake Township for 186 years this year. I bought it from the rest of the family when my father passed away. My children will be the seventh-generation owners, and my grandchildren, I have two of, will be the eighth. So let me just tell you something. The industry is not learning from what New Yorkers are like. By the way, if you don't know this, my mom's from Oswego. I'm a fifth-generation New Yorker from Oswego. I've got 4 generations buried of my ancestors on the Oswego River. Why would they even think of putting this filling station near Vera and I, and Bill and Ray Kimball? First of all, number one mistake. Number two, we're going to drive right through Vestal and Binghamton, and then we're going to cut right through Otsego, which is the heart of where fracking was stopped. I mean, pretty much you guys are, with everybody else that fought it, you guys are the ones that really came up. So when we want to get things done, where do you think we go? When we want to stop something, like Vera and I showed up in 2012 at the City Library and talked about the Constitution Pipeline before most anybody in the state knew what a Constitution Pipeline was. But we found out because you know where it was emanating from Pennsylvania. So I just want to let you know, we weren't looking for quantity tonight, we're looking for quality, and I'm looking out at this crowd, and we've got the right people sitting here to get this thing fired up and get the right people's attention to it. So I'm going to start the presentation. I want to thank Bill Huston. Everything you see on here, even in my car on the way here, Bill was adding slides, and we're going to completely keep putting this together. We'd like feedback, because this is a crowd that we believe is friendly. Even if there's people in here that like the trucks driving around, we'd like the feedback too. We'd like feedback to make this a presentation that will wow wherever we do it. So as you can see, Bomb Trucks 101. Some people, there's a controversy about what we're calling this, but I'm a marketing and PR guy for 35 years. So my idea was we had bomb trains, we have fracking, we know what that sounds like, and we use that word so much, and it worked very well. That's why I use this. But we can call them by their name. I'm going to show you here. There is other terminologies for it. What's that? Yeah, we got it. So the disclaimer, and I got a little, I'm learning, I have my little laser pointer here so I can do that. All information is factual to the best of our knowledge. I'm just going to set this so it's good. Key points have been vetted by professionals. All personal information presented herein has been either freely given or found in public. And please email us and let us know if there's anything we can correct or add that you feel would be instrumental in helping us. You've already heard about me. My dad was a first responder for 63 years in the Civil Air Patrol. And I got the bug. What that means is, he said, you know what? envision the worst that can happen and hope for the best. That's a first responder. They think of the worst thing scenario that can happen, and then they hope for the best by educating and getting people ready. There's Bill, like I said, instrumental in helping, Vera in finding this. We make a good team, and we love coming up to New York because we know that you guys will take our seed and turn it into something big. What is it? Bomb Truck 101. It's a high pressure, high capacity, bulk haul, type 4, CNG, carbon fiber composite, virtual pipeline, tube trailers. Okay, so that's why I call them bomb trucks, because I can't even say that without running out of breath. We then put the initial of everything you saw there, for sure. So we don't get hung up on the name. The name does not matter. Call them Gerschnarbel trucks if you like bomb trucks, and you pick the name. The name should be specific to whatever it is. CNG trucks is not specific enough. There are other, these are not your grandfather's CNG trucks. We are showing you pictures because some people that have not seen these, you need to be looking out for them because they hide them really well, you'll see. This is when they painted their logos on the side before they ended up upside down in 5 ditches so far in 18 months. And that's not good advertising upside down. You know the Jeeps your friend drive? If you could read this bumper sticker, flip me back over, you ought to put them on these trucks. No kidding. There's the large one now, that's the new one. Quantum VPC, they're a white box truck that look like any other big truck riding on the road. You can tell by the flaps, that's Quantum's logo, but don't go by that. You see on the lower picture in the upper, on the driver's side, all the way back, there's a big black stain. That's specific to this type of truck, not all of those, but if you see that, that is one of these trucks. We want to let you guys know, it's like an APB. You need to know what they look like. This is one that went out of business. You might see a few of those. They're called the Light Store or Light Sale. Would you like to know the other two that are still running all these trucks are in receivership? Both companies. I don't know if I want broke companies driving giant 11-ton methane potential bomb trucks through residential neighborhoods in upstate New York. I don't know about you, but I'm just funny that way. Summary of my talk. Trucks are new and experimental. Do you know that these have not been approved by the US DOT? They're experimental status for 4-foot-long tanks that go in the back of vehicles, for hydrogen vehicles, and for CNG vehicles. They have never tested, as far as we know, or approved the use that they're doing here, but they're letting them get away with it. The trucks are unregulated. There is absolutely no oversight. Bill and Vera and I have begged all the authorities, you'll see the list, to do something, and they say, not my job. The trucks are untested in the real world. Operators are lawless. They violate everything. Trucks are extreme consequence vehicles, and I'll show you in the presentation why. Only New York can save all of us from this. Why? Because you guys are good at stopping things that might hurt people, and we're moving in another direction, by the way. I got my Bolt all-electric out there, traded in my big Traverse, burning $6,000 of gas a year, and if I can do it as a former right-wing Tea Party conservative, now independent frack fighter, I guess anybody in this room can figure out how to run their car. Now I wave at the gas stations as I go by. I gave it to office, thank you. New and experimental, Type 4 CNG composite pressure vessels, first permitted in bulk haul configuration in only 2012. This is 6 years total that they've been approved for bulk haul. Unapproved application according to the Code of Federal Regulations, only allowed due to the US DOT special permit, which is an exemption from hazmat regulations. Unregulated, no oversight. FERC. These trucks are crossing a state line with methane or natural gas for sale. That requires a certificate from FERC, which was never given, nor will FERC even answer us why they won't look into it and make them apply. US DOT, New York State PennDOT, New York State DOT and PennDOT, New York State Public Service Commission, New York State DEC. We have no authority over bomb trucks. It's not my job, we were told by everybody. I called the head of emergency management for the whole state in Albany just a couple weeks ago when they had the big crash there. We'll show you that. And you know what? He didn't know what these were. This is the head of emergency management. Why are they doing trainings with Fly Creek Fire Department along the route, but they're not training the head of emergency management for New York what these are? You know why. They don't want the politicians involved. Maybe something bad will happen to the regulations to them. Innovation circumvents regulations. That means when something new comes along like fracking, like horizontal drilling and fracturing, that was new innovation to the old drilling. And so guess what? The rules had to catch up. Well, that's all we're doing here. We're going to find out if we can catch the rules up with these and get them off the road. Regulators are specifically empowered by the statutes. If the statutes are silent on fracking or bomb trucks, GMO food, then the regulators have no authority. Untested real world. What is the potential impact radius under both a fire scenario and a rapid decompression scenario, both with or without ignition? If you don't know this, a bomb can be a pressure release or ignited and then it becomes a fire. There are different ways to have an explosion. Where is destructive testing under real world conditions? It doesn't exist. We've searched everywhere we can, called everybody, there is none. Tanks in a trailer configuration loaded with methane. Puncture tests sitting in burning diesel or gasoline, or hit by a train. Here's a scenario we looked at. That's a truck flatbed carrying rebar, long pieces of rebar. This is what happens when a load is not properly loaded. Look at what happened. It drove right through the trailer. That looks like beams. But look at this one. Uh-oh. We have no idea what loose rebar flying right through these tanks will do, but I'll tell you it's not something you want to be within half a mile of, I'm pretty sure. There's the one we're most worried about. A diesel-powered tractor having a crash where the diesel leaks out and there's an ignition source and it burns under these tanks. This is a long list, I won't go over it, but we're going to have the presentation made available, but it covers everything from noise study. There was no noise study, no final approvals. They snuck them in Mannheim and in Forest Lake. They lied to everybody. They told our Pennsylvania governor and his governor's action team that they were going to be filling vehicles up and transporting to alternative fuel filling stations. They've never done that in a year and a half. So when I called them out on it, they lost their $400,000 in grants they were supposed to get from Pennsylvania. They said, whoops, and they yanked them. It's amazing what happens when you tell the people the truth. Why would we give them the grant money if they're not using for that? Exactly. X&G standard response to incidents. This is what their responses have been to any incident, and you're going to see how many they've had. First responders are trained to call an X&G to the command scene. That means they call the company that crashed the truck to come in and clean up the mess. Wait, what? Driver error is blamed every single time. They have kept drivers on the site, and the first thing they get before they get medical attention is a drug test. Blame the driver. Remove the wreckage, never to be seen again. In all 5 rollover crashes so far, in any incident where it involved damage to the vehicle, we have never seen, or do we know where any of the trailers are, the chassis, or the tractor. Wait till you see what they look like after they crash, and you wonder, why is there no NTSB investigation? Why is there no DOT investigation in either Pennsylvania or New York? It's amazing. If any other hazmat vehicle crashed in New York, they would have a big investigation. They close the road down, sometimes for days. No agency inspecting tractor trailer for defects or misconfiguration, which may contribute to crashes. They have to be adjusted because of a steer axle and things like that. No press inquiries, no release of gas. Driver error, no danger to the community is their pat answer from the people that represent them. Each of these statements is false. Rarely is National Response Center called as required by law. If you park a hazmat vehicle on the side of the road with the flashers on, you have to call the NRC. They're not supposed to be stopped. They have specific areas where they can stop and not regular rest areas. Extreme consequence vehicles, known hazards, the fueling, traffic and unsafe speed, motor vehicle incidents, rollover crashes, rollovers, flamethrower, you'll see what that means, tank explosion without ignition, tank explosion with ignition. We have examples of all this. Let's go to fueling and loading. There's what our facility looks like. That was a beautiful field with trees and in an iconic, beautiful, bucolic neighborhood, and they turned it into this stinky filling station. And here's the problem. Mercaptan, if you're working on that site, you're breathing mercaptan in all the time. Look up mercaptan, it's got a skull and crossbones on the MSDS. It's very dangerous. When you smell that rotten egg smell when gas leaks, you're supposed to run for your life. These guys are working around it, filling these every single day. Plus there's a risk of a fire here or an explosion, extremely, because this is the filling station. Now, this is a damaged tank that ruptured during fueling. There was no ignition. That is a full-size tractor trailer with a sleeper cab. It blew it to pieces. And that was a rapid decompression of 3,600 pounds per square inch of gas only. No ignition. This is another one where they were filling it, and the pressure was so much it blew the roof apart and blew part of the truck apart right here, what you can see. And there's what the tanks look like when they breach. It goes off like a missile. We'll show you that too, because if you puncture the end of a tank with 3,600 pounds of PSI, it would fly right through. Traffic and unsafe speed. Everybody along the route is telling us how fast they're driving, way faster. In a 45, they're doing 55 or 60. In a 55, they're doing 70. In a hazmat vehicle full of 11 tons of methane. There is, when they were being followed, there's the 65-mile-an-hour sign. I'll use my, look at, there's the truck. Obviously, it's the truck, UN 1971. And there's the speedometer of the vehicle following it. That is at 75 miles an hour. I don't know about you, but hazmat vehicles are supposed to follow the law, and some areas are supposed to drive slower in the right-hand lane than the regular speed for normal traffic. Motor vehicle incidents. There is their track record so far in 18 months. That's all they've been in business for. Now, we're going to show you each one. But you had a spontaneous venting in Binghamton. You had a tip over. You've had two rollover crashes in Pennsylvania. They were only about 5 months apart. Then you've had all these other here, collision with a car, slide off a road because it's icy, look, it's in February. Yeah, we knew that was going to happen. Mechanical and towed, rollover in Bethlehem, New York on June 2nd, and that is in Albany. That's 2 miles from the governor's mansion. This is a spontaneous venting. That means the entire load gets shot out of the truck, and by the way, if it hits an ignition source like the flame in your hot water heater, we're going to have a problem. There's the flaming wheel bearing. It was shooting flames out. When they pulled over, the first responder had to put it out, and then the fire department came in. They wetted the wheel bearing down with their fire truck to cool it down. And then we had a rollover in Exeter just on July 11th. Now, anybody notice a trend here? I'm going to show you a trend. It took months for the 2 rollover crashes to happen apart from each other, and there were other incidents between that. Look at now, between June 2nd and July 11th, that's only about 5 weeks, they had 4 incidents, including 2 rollover crashes. They're not getting better at what they're doing. It's getting more frequent. Anybody want to guess what's going to happen when the other 2 stations you were told about start cranking 300 to 500 trucks a day through the southern tier of New York? What that list will look like? These are the only ones we found. The one in Albany that crashed right near the governor's mansion and the Capitol, we had to find it. Nobody announced it. It wasn't in the paper. It was hidden from all of you and all of us. That to me is absolutely ridiculous. Rollovers. There's your 3. February 21st and then July 12th. That's 5 months apart. You had 2 months later, you had a rollover in Hartwick. And then you had this year, 5 weeks apart, 2 rollover crashes. I don't like the trend, folks. That's the first rollover. It fell on its side, and that was right in our neighborhood. See how it slid right here? There's a lot of weight on this thing. See the tanks in the back? The door flipped open. Let me show you the driver. Female, the only female driver. Not only did her hand fall out the window when it was on that side, so you'll see what that looks like, but there was a loose equipment inside the truck, and it struck her in the side of the head. Fractured her skull. Look at this. That's what it looked like when she went into the hospital. This is when they sent her out of the hospital. That's cleaned up. And look who helped raise money and has the Capitol Medical Office Building. That is the gas. Cabot Oil and Gas is in these trucks. You want to get treated at the hospital that's basically got their name on the outside as the company that has the, so there's the driver went there. They held her at the side of the road for over 2 hours before they transported her. We found out if they wait over an hour, they don't have to notify that it's a rollover crash with injury. Purposely holding human beings, look at this, back to work or we fire you. She came back to work, her hand like hamburger, and still look at her eye. What are we expecting her to do? Can't crank the wheel of a truck. This is the second one. We don't have any pictures because nobody would give us any. We FOIA'd and you can't find a picture of this. But look at what happened. It slipped off the road. Does anybody see that? Those are sewer pipes. It ripped 3 of them right out of the ground and threw them up on the bank. That takes a lot of pressure. You see the truck just grated right across the sides there. Do not tell me you want to be near one of these. Here's the Hartwick rollover. We are talking, that is upside down in a ditch. See, I'm a marketing and PR guy. You really don't want the name of your company on the side of the truck upside down in a ditch on the side of the road. That's not good marketing. Unless you're marketing that you know how to flip trucks over really good. Look at the cab. This gentleman survived. I'm going to show you all 5 crashes and the result, and you're going to wonder, how did these people survive these crashes? There it is in the ditch. It went over 150 yards upside down in the ditch. It was probably going 70 miles an hour. If you're next to this thing and it falls on your school bus with your kids in it, it gets flat like a pancake. This thing weighs 80,000+ pounds. There's the driver of the one that went in the ditch. There's the selfie he took while he was driving on an icy road. There's the selfie he took while he's driving with his knees holding the wheel. He's having a lot of fun, right up until he flipped it upside down in the ditch. By the way, they told us he wasn't injured. He went to the hospital for 3 days. He had a dislocated shoulder. We had broken feet when they jumped out. It's ridiculous how they're treating the drivers. Oh, this is the fun one. Anybody here live along the route? Good morning, Richfield Lake, as he takes a picture while he's driving on a 2-lane road, not big enough for 2 of these to go by sideways. Beautiful, right up until you fall off the road and knock that house into the lake. That would be a bad thing. Now, here's another one. Yeah, I guess I'm a lucky one, because most of our trailers are very top-heavy because of the tanks inside them. So when we found out the rollover, I took it upon myself to find out the manufacturers. I called both companies and talked to both the vice presidents that basically were the engineers that developed these trucks from both companies. And they flat out told me, yeah, these are rolling over all over the world. It's a real problem. When you take 11 tons in that trailer and put it 5 feet off the ground to start, you're in big trouble to start with. Uh-oh. There's one where he's bad-mouthing Vera on it about driving and videotape. Well, this is the same guy that rolled into a ditch while he's taking selfies, so we don't really need to... Vera doesn't need to be told how to drive from somebody who can't keep that truck on the road. I'm sorry. And I feel sorry for the drivers, but guess what? These are professional drivers. If these are unsafe, they shouldn't even get in them. They should tell the owner of the company. By the way, did I mention, originally when these started rolling up in the New England, they were paying these hazmat professionals $50+ an hour to drive these trucks. Then those guys all quit because these are the most unsafe things they've ever driven. So now they pay them $21.50, and you get right out of Wally Thor's School of Trucking, get your hazmat certificate, and they take you from water truck to something that acts nothing like any other vehicle they've ever driven. No wonder why they're rolling over. I think I want them to pay the professionals to drive these in my neighborhood. I don't want them having somebody that just graduated from trucking school. Oh, let me go back to that one. That is the crash in Albany that just happened on the 2nd of June. There's the crash site. That is a bridge. He ripped out the guardrail across the bridge but did not fall over it. It's about 70 feet down to the road. When he got to the end of the bridge where the guardrail doesn't exist, he rolled off. This is the end, but let me show you what the truck did. There's the police report. He rolled 270 almost back to upright. Anybody know when you're in an 80,000-pound vehicle and the front tractor only weighs about 10 tons, what it's doing every time it rolls to one side? It slams the tractor against the ground just like that. It's a fulcrum. It's smacking it against the ground. I'm surprised this guy... Now, look at this. This will get your attention. Reading this. Driver self-extricated and is transported for injuries. He had bloody face and hands. Okay, imagine that. He hit the guide rails. He ripped out 12 guide rails, 16, those are the guardrails themselves, 16 guide rail posts, 2 delineator, did turf damage. But you know, when I called them about this accident, they really didn't want to talk to me. But I asked the head of emergency management in Albany, you know what they came out for? They didn't come out because of a giant truck full of methane 2 miles from the governor's mansion, because they spilled 5 gallons of DEF fluid. They came out with a mop and a bucket to clean up that, and while they were doing that, they were standing next to a truck that had 11 tons of highly explosive methane next to them. Whoops. Come on. I mean, this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. We measured it 2 miles from the governor's mansion, 2.5 from the Capitol itself. This explosion, I believe, would damage the egg. Windows in a half a mile to a mile radius would have a real big problem with this if one blows up. Look at that. That's the whole front end of the truck laying on the grass. Luckily, this guy, they flipped it upright before this picture was taken. We don't have a picture. Nobody took a picture when it was laying on its side. That is moving a vehicle from a crash scene, altering the vehicle in the crash scene before they even take the pictures from it. It's ridiculous. Now, I wanted to show you this. Look at the trailer damage on both sides. These are not standard cargo containers that are like an inch thick of steel. These are very lightweight, so when they fall like that, they break. The plumbing inside is 3/4 inch tubing to these containers. Imagine what happens with that when you slam it on its side 4 or 5 times. Now, see the quantum is on the bottom, so it's another quantum vehicle. Now look at this. You can't see it too good, but look right there. It flattened that wheel. That is a steel wheel on a truck designed to carry 40 tons. It flattened. We don't even know what it hit. There's nothing in there that said it hit, but it had to hit something really hard to bend that wheel. There's another side. This side, now there's the front. Look at that cab. Who lived through that? Driver transported with injuries. What are his injuries? Did he have his head, was in his lap when they transported? Because there was nothing left on that side of the cab he was in. There's your radius. There's consequence radius right here of where the crash was right here. There are about 10,000 people we estimate will live there. They'd have to evacuate. That's the evacuation zone recommended by a methane release on a UN 1971 hazmat truck. You think you can, 2 in the morning, you're going to get rid of all 10,000 people that are in that circle to get out of the danger zone? No, you're not. And why are they driving these through there? Here's the crash at Exeter. This is the only picture we have. It flipped, the trailer laid down on its side, and the tractor stayed straight up. This is the plumbing vent. See all the holes there? That's the top. They had to pop each one of those tanks open mechanically and let them vent. The people nearby all night for hours said it sounded like 6 train whistles going off because these things have a lot of pressure coming out. Let me tell you what happens if you pop one open while you're standing in front of that little valve hole. It will shoot you across, it'll punt you through the goalposts of life to the other side of the football field. That's what it will do if it doesn't break every bone in your body with the pressure when it comes off. These are highly pressurized tanks. Flamethrower. Let me show you what happens if you just break one open and it ignites just one single tank. That is a garbage truck that had a fire and then it hit the tank and the tank became a flamethrower and it burned the front of that house right off. And until the pressure came released, you can't stop the flame. There is nothing you can shoot on that because it's under pressure. Cannot stop the flamethrower until the pressure comes down enough to turn off the flamethrower. There's no valve to touch. Do not tell me, okay, I'm going to argue here a point. Do not tell me these can't cause some damage, whether they're ignited or not, because I don't want to hear it. I'm proving to you, and that's why we're going to make this available. I'm not going to argue with people. They can call whatever they want. They can be concerned about whatever aspect I'm showing you. The traffic, the speeding, the filling stations, the drivers, the lack of experience. They don't weigh the trucks. Every other truck on the road has to go through a weigh station. They avoid it by going around to these small areas. They have to weigh these, otherwise they can't adjust them properly. Now look at this one. See the guy had not properly secured this fork truck. He hit the brakes, it slid forward, it punctured the tank, and that tank blew the entire truck apart without ignition. That is without ignition. That's just a pressure release at 3,600 psi. It'll get your attention. He killed the driver because it probably blew the back end right through him because the tanks are right back here. See them stacked up? That's the tanks. Escaping gas has a force enough to crush your body. I mean, it's ridiculous, the force. Now, here's one in Indianapolis. They had an explosion here. So January 27, 2015, Indianapolis, CNG refuse truck fired an explosion. The shrapnel traveled 1,200 feet into the schoolyard. Watch this. Look what the tank looks like. It's shredded, but it weighs a couple hundred pounds, and it flew 1,200 feet into a yard that would have been full of kids if that was the playtime out of the school. I don't want my kids anywhere near one of these things. Tank explosion with ignition. We have no idea what one of these looks like. Now, that doesn't mean it hasn't happened, because we had to search to find what happened in Albany when one rolled over. Do we think they're like they're advertising when one blows up? Let's see. Now, there's what we would say. This is the worst case scenario of the same. I think that's Ithaca we did just to show it because we did an Ithaca presentation. There's the radius where you would potentially lose life. This is the radius where you would want to evacuate. What's that? Evacuate the area, and there you go. This is ridiculously large for any town that they're going through, small town or large, because you cannot get that many people out. They vented the tanks with people in their homes. They didn't even have them get out of their house and get lost. Well, they vented the methane right towards their house so much they could smell the rotten egg and hear it all night long, because it takes hours to get all the methane out of this when it flips over. For comparison, anybody here ever heard of them? What? Okay, let's see. Which one? Oh. Vapor cloud, 15, yeah, the 5 and 15 is when methane gets to a 5 or to 15% air mix, it's ignitable. Before that, it's too rich in methane. You all know, if a methane or even natural gas are released in a house, it'll displace the oxygen and you suffocate. You can't breathe. We don't breathe methane, we breathe O2. So what it's doing is the vapor cloud will go out until it hits 5 to 15% and find an ignition source. And then that becomes a huge explosion with flame. It just turns into a giant flame. Anything inside of that is going to be grilled to a crackly crunch. And I don't care what it is, house or person. Structure failure causing all gas loading to vent, all available methane forms a vapor cloud, and the gas finds an ignition source. Watch this. A Moab is called the mother of all bombs. About 12 years ago, they dropped one over Afghanistan. It was the largest detonation of a conventional weapon in the history of the world. The only thing bigger is a nuclear explosion. So, believe it or not, that was 11 tons of TNT equivalent in that bomb. 11 tons. Anybody want to know what the equivalent is in one of these trucks? It is, worst case scenario here, 520. So the Moab is 11. It's 11 Moabs inside of one of those tractor trailers of energy. Gigajoules, they call that. I'm not big on this, but Bill knows how to calculate it. We ran this by all kinds of science people and people that do explosion stuff, and they said, yeah, it's around 11 times more potential for explosive power inside that trailer than was in the Moab, the largest explosion in the history of the world of a conventional weapon. This is the Mythbusters show, their final show, and they took a cement truck and filled it full of 7.74 gigajoules. And so one of the Titan 53s, the new ones going off, would be 67 of this size of explosion. We want them to drag one of these out into a desert. I'm going to light a diesel fire underneath. Carbon fiber is very interesting. They put a vinyl, like a plastic inside tank, and they wrap it in multiple directions with this carbon fiber. It's like Kevlar. It's really strong to hold that pressure in. But you know what, when we called, we found out you can't put a vacuum on them. If you read their own owner's manual, it says it has to remain, you'll hear these trucks being told they're empty. Oh no, it rolled over, but it was empty. No, it isn't. It has to retain at least 200 pounds per square inch of pressure in all the tanks, not to void the warranty and cause a vacuum. As soon as you do that, the carbon fiber starts to break, because it's not designed to go inward, it's designed just to keep pressure inside that's going outward. I don't want to get too technical, but I'll tell you this. Every one of these, when they go to Mannheim, anybody here good with pressure? Because when you pull a truck up that's got 3,600 to 5,000 PSI of pressure, you're pushing it into that pipe there, it'll come out of the truck for a while until it gets to parity in pressure. And then what do you have to do? You have to hook that compressor they hooked up, and you have to suck it out of the truck. That is putting a vacuum on that truck, which voids the warranty and violates the manufacturer's recommendations. We're trying to get people's attention. For some reason they don't care, but that should scare you, because every one of these goes sometimes 1 or 2 times a day to that facility and gets filled and then extracted. We don't know how many times they're supposed to do it. You know what these are invented for? To go up in space, probably one use. Not to be reused thousands of times, driven over 90 miles on roads that jump up and down like this, and some of them are in there horizontally, and the little ones, they stack 45 or 51 like a sausage package, stacked right in there. I don't want to know what one of these, that's why I'm here. I'm afraid of what one of these is going to do if it really has a bad hair day, and none of us want to know about it. I don't care where in the world it happens, it's going to cause a lot of damage. We're here to stop these before they roll over another 20 or 30 of them, and then we find out what it's like when one of them goes kablamo. So that is pretty impressive there. So only New York can save the world from bomb trucks, and I'm saying that for real. Well, I can take this presentation to Pennsylvania, Virginia, Maryland, DC, and nobody's going to help us stop them. This room right here, counting on you guys, really. I mean, we can't do. We can tell you what happens in Pennsylvania is not staying in Pennsylvania, guys. It's only 8 miles the drive to the Vestal border, and then it's all New York for 91, 92 more miles. It's all you. They want to do this in Ithaca. Can you imagine hundreds of these a day going right past Cornell and Ithaca College? Anybody here thinks a bad idea for them to pick that location too? You used to have Sandra Steingraber there, you have Bob Howarth, you have Tony Ingraffi, you have the entire movement there. They're not happy. And that's not only just the station they want to build there and the power plant, but they're going to carry the gas. Now we found out they want to carry them to New York City, because a lot of people can't get on gas or not on pipelines in the city area. Imagine one of these even just rolling over on the George Washington Bridge and causing that whole thing to be closed for a day while they try to figure out how to get it off there. So let me go back to that one. We love the fierce activists here. We love the technical experts, the just say no attitude. More New York City, but you know, most of the people here are pretty low key. You get close to New York, you get people that will tell you where to go if they don't, if they're not having a good day. But we love them too because they're the fighters. New York has SECRA. That's what we need. We need the state to require a SECRA on this, and it would shut them down immediately. Keep bugging regulators and legislators. We need you to talk to your local elected officials, your county elected officials, and the state. And we're going to do. We need help going federal with this. Recommendations, fix the statutory regulatory gap. We want to fix the New York hazmat law to prohibit non-local bulk haul routes. Why? First of all, Nicole, they wanted these off those small roads because it's ridiculous. They're windy, and when these guys steer the whole, we have video of the trailers just going like this. I mean, right? But they flipped one over on 87 at 8 o'clock in the morning. What happened? Because that's a flat interstate road, not a steep grade, and it literally just fell off the road. We want to know what happened, and nobody's talking. Nobody from Albany will tell us anything. I called the trooper who was on the sign on the bottom of that, Trooper Brown. He got mad at me for even calling. Who are you? Why should I talk to you? I go, they're emanating from my backyard, and I want to know how this happened. It was on a flat road at 8 in the morning, clear skies, no rain, no snow, no ice. And he said, get lost, basically. So I think I need to have somebody have a conversation with him. Maybe his boss. Require comprehensive EIS, New York SECRA, National Environmental Policy Act. We want a PIR overlay study of the entire route, which they won't tell us where these routes are. They will not tell us where they're going. FERC and DOE must get operators to declare their intentions to engage in interstate commerce, exports, and injection into transmission lines. Okay, so here's X and G. My house is right here, literally right down the street. That's where my house is. Vera lives right there in Brackney, so we're really close to that. Now, Pentagon Energy is looking at, Energy Advantage. Ray Kimball's house is right here where the E is, and that's where they want to put this one in Springville. Then, and how many people in Springville have contaminated water from drilling? Well, we figure 100, at least in that area alone, have contaminated water that's still there. So, 10th anniversary, by the way, on September 11th for Demic's water contamination. 10 years, it's all still contaminated. Thanks, drilling, gas and oil companies. Pentagon Energy is right here. That's right on 81. We have no idea where that's going. They could go this way to CPV. Anywhere a power plant gets built that can't get a pipeline approved, they're going to want to drive these. We calculated it would take about 220 a day going to CPV to keep it rolling. A day. That's one way. That's 440 round trip. And they'll do it if they need to do it. So they found a way to go around to us, the people that learned how to fight fracking, then we learned how to do the pipelines. So now this is it, guys. We don't focus on this. There will be 1,000 a day of these within the next 1 or 2 years driving through New York State to every direction. We don't know. When we go like this, when we do a map to that one, where are they going? We could draw red lines going everywhere, like a spider web. They won't tell us where they're going, so we can just guess. I'm a marketing guy. If you really want to mess with somebody, you just draw lines going everywhere, and then you make them tell you where they're really going. We're not going that direction. Great, tell me where you're really going. Because then we can we'll go flyer the whole route and show them a video of what their life's going to be like for the next however long this is going on. 2 in the morning, my house shakes when 40-ton trucks go by it. So do these small houses. It's not fair to the communities. It needs to be stopped. Now, here we go. Here's ones that exist. There's Ticonderoga, Mechanicville, Mannheim is right here. Oneonta is they're suggested, and then Ithaca with the power plant they want to do. So these are the ones suggested. Bill, these are already going, right? Mechanicville, Ticonderoga, and if you go up, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, they're based, X&G is based in Boston. They have them in Massachusetts too. And we already found out that X&G went to Virginia. I have a picture of the governor of Virginia with his arm around the CEO of X&G saying, yeah, you guys are gonna come here and create jobs. Our governor said 80 new jobs were going to be made in Pennsylvania for the drivers and everybody. And when Vera drove by and took pictures of the facility, wasn't a Pennsylvania plate in the entire place, all New York plates. So they're Pennsylvania jobs. Come on, Governor. You might want to rearrange that statement. Now, this is what it looks like when we win. So we're getting ready to get one of these. That's Fenton. When Vera found out about this, and Bill warned Fenton, and we just sent him the information. They were showing up with 200 and 300 people to these local planning board meetings. And then they did 2 Article 78s. But they almost, if we hadn't warned them, if Bill hadn't warned them, they had a week to do the Article 78 before they were going to run past the statute, the 30-day statute. The only reason they stopped this in Fenton is because they were warned. So that's what we're here for. I'm not here to badmouth anything, but I'm here to tell you, you're warned now, and when you see these going by your house, which we're going to try to stop, we can't stop it without you in New York. This is bigger than us. We're just the guys sending the gas, and they're drilling in our area, but we're very sorry. I want to apologize publicly to everybody in this room. I want to apologize for what they've done to my ancestors' area and turned it into this giant extraction colony, and they're putting all of you at risk. Fracking, well, hey, fracking is bad, and we agree. But these things scare the hell out of me because they're portable. You don't have to live near the well pad to have a big explosion. They'll just bring it right to you. It's like a drive-through your place. So there's the contact information. We'd like people to help us so we can get you all this. FERC, we want Grace Kwan. We begged her to do something about this, and they hang up on Bill and I because they don't want to talk anymore. Suzanne Ellis is the U.S. DOT head for the entire Northeast region, like 8 states. Nothing. No help. New York State DOT, Sonia Signorelli, after we did our first presentation, and that was in Richfield Springs, about standing room only, about 100 plus people showed up. Vera was there, Bill and I. They had to go to damage control. So about a month later, they did their own meeting, and they brought the guy from New York State DOT, and he was parroting everything. Everything the industry says, that these are safe, and they're as safe as propane bottle trucks, blah, blah, blah. Show of hands, anybody see me compare any of these to any other vehicle besides the ones we're talking about? No, I'm not, because it's irrelevant. This is a separate animal. It's experimental, untested, and it's being driven on the roads for 1.5 years now, 100 a day through the communities here on Sigo area. Now we have a New York State Public Service Commission member, and we brought it to Tony Avella's attention. He had a lot of interest, so we need to encourage that both on the House side and on the Senate side. We really need them to start acting. I'm looking at my time here. So what I'd like to do, that's Bill and I's contact. You can get that from any of us. Most of you already have it. But our focus is education. And I'm really asking you sincerely, if you guys saw anything you saw that was not put in here that you'd like to see, we'd love to add it. And Bill is great at the graphics. I love it. I just let him do it. I don't know how to do any of the computer stuff, but I can sure stand in front of people. We filled this place up with 600 people. I'm just as comfortable with 5 sitting in their house. So it's not about the numbers. It's about the quality of the people that are here that know how to get things done. I mean, I'm looking at some help. Wes is here from Catskill Mountain Keeper. Thank you. I mean, how much help did he and his team and all of them give us in upstate Pennsylvania? Phenomenal. We can't thank the people enough here that came and highlighted that and then brought that message to your governor, and he shut it down here. First state or country in the world that said to the oil and gas industry, drill somewhere else because you're not drilling here. So what I want to do now is any questions, and I want hard ones, I want good ones from my good, smart people. If you love these trucks, if you think I'm an idiot, you want to tell me what I got wrong here, go for it, because I get that too. I can handle it, and we'll improve this. This is our second presentation. We want to rearrange if we need to and do whatever, but we're asking for help, because we need this message to be we need to sharpen the axe with the people that know how to do it, and then we need you guys to tell us who we're going to present it to next. I'd like to go to Albany, I'd like to go to New York City, and I'd like to go to the Hudson Valley or the Catskill Mountains area, because when we wake up those sections too, then we're in trouble. I might go to Buffalo and Rochester just to even out the other side of the state. I'll go anywhere that we can do this presentation, and we'll add anything from this group that you have ideas. So let me see any hands come up that have any particular questions or comments on the presentation for us. Thank you. Yes,
Craig,
Nicole.
I don't have a question, but I noticed that there are at least 2 candidates for office that are in the audience tonight. We have Joyce St. George, who's running for state senate. And
Hi, Joyce.
Dan Butterman. Assembly in which
Fantastic.
district? 121.
121. Thank you for being here.
So I just want to
by
give
the way.
them a chance to come up and either tell us what you think about this and what a solution might be, or whether you have a question you want to ask. But I wanted to acknowledge that you're here, and thank you for being
Thank
here.
you so much for being here.
Oh. And of course, we have Danny Lappin, who is one of our newest members of the Otsego County Legislature.
Danny, thank you for coming too. And Nicole, also thank you for all your help. I mean, Nicole really rang the fire alarm in her area because they have the troops first. You don't want to wake up with 100 of these going past your house before you realize, what are those things? Oh, they're just like Walmart trucks. Don't worry. Walmart trucks don't carry 11 tons of methane. Feel free to come up and thank you.
I'm always free. Hi there. I have been working with several people from Otsego about this issue with the decompressor. But it goes so much further. I'm also interested in the blue-green algae blooms. I'm interested in the warming of the waters and, just so much of what's going on. And there are many things. The thing that I keep running into is, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, the first thing I would do is get all these people in a room. I mean, if you're a senator or an assembly person, you can do things like that. You can bring people into a room and say, why not? I think that that's the big question. It's not why, it's why not. What have you not done and why not?
Yep.
But I think the other part of it is, what do we do with the power that exists today with the fossil fuel companies? So for instance, I know that my opponent gets at least $100,000 from fossil fuel companies. Mm-hmm. So he plays to his audience, which is the lobbyists. He is always going to side on that side. That will not change. And one of the things that's very difficult to argue is, well, if we don't have the fracked oil and we don't have our pipelines, what do we do? Mm-hmm. Because you can't just turn a toggle switch and get renewables. My thinking is not that you need a toggle switch, you need investment. And so I think that the investment on these renewables needs to be there, but the problem is, what do we do right now? Mm-hmm. And I think that that is the big question. What do we do right now? Do we allow this to happen and perpetuate this forever? How does that help us to get to a goal of 2030 of being renewable? So the problem I'm having is, how do you make that switch and turn down these the fracked gas? How do you turn it down, and what do you offer in its place immediately? Sure. So I'm sure you've had this question.
Sure.
I'm just curious about your answer.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're forced from the time we were born to use what energy method our parents and our grandparents used. That doesn't mean we still have to go. My mom was a chain smoker, 3 packs a day. I decided that wasn't for me. Neither did my brother or sister smoke. I stopped drinking when I was a teenager because it wasn't for me. So we can change our course, but our kids are going to do it. My kids saw this and they went, are they nuts? So we have to make it personal to these legislators. They have to realize they're going to be driving past their house, because guess what? They don't know the route either. So what I tell them is, when you wake up at 2 in the morning the first time and you shake it out of bed and go, what is that? And then it just keeps going and going. And I go, that's your fault, because they didn't recognize that this could come to their house, past their kids' school, past their parents' elder care facility, past the veterinary clinic. I mean, there's the issue. But I'll tell you this, here's how I do it. Why then, if this is America's fuel and it's all for us, why do we have 40 export terminals in the works? Why, if I'm a I'm not a dairy farmer, but the 5 generations before me were, there's many people like where Wes lives, they make a living growing food. But you know what? They always make sure there's enough food for them and their local family first. Who in their right mind would extract all this out and just start shipping it? What does that tell you? They can't make any money doing it, because if you look it up, the use of methane or natural gas in America has been declining for the last 20 years. Why? It's dangerous, it's very expensive to convert your house from electric to, why then not convert it from electric to solar? Because you're staying in the electric part, you're just not getting the electric sent in a wire, you're doing it with the sun. So we're all that too. I am not a negative person, I'm a positive person, so I don't like being anti anything, I like being pro. And by the way, not only did I buy a new electric vehicle, the Chevy Bolt, which I totally love and have 7,000 miles in 7 weeks, but I'm going to figure out how to charge it with solar panels and battery in my house, so I'm not even plugging it in. Because the first question you get asked by the oil and gas industry guys is, you got to plug it in somewhere, where's that coming from? And I go, I plug it into a battery, and it gets charged by that big, giant, shiny ball that floats around up in the air every day. And when that stops shining, we don't have to worry about where we're getting our fuel. We have to worry about how do we stay alive without that thing. So I like to answer a question with a question. So there's your question. If this is so much for us, the abundance, why is it all going elsewhere? That makes us a third world extraction colony that we all read about when we were in grade school. About every other country they've been abusing. We're now getting abused. So we got a constitution, protective laws and everything, just nobody enforcing them. My dad said when you have laws on the books but no enforcement, that's called anarchy. And if it's anarchy, there are people in this room here, we're farmers, we can take care of ourselves. We don't need anybody else, outsiders. So our focus is, if we get all together, I want to ask one question in this room. When is everyone going to call Albany? Well, Bill and I will give you the number of the guy that does emergency management, number one. Why did they not even have this in the paper? Why did they follow no protocol that's required by the handbook that's given to every first responder? None. They didn't evacuate a half a mile. They did not shut the road down. When these crashed, you know they have to pull down the power wires. They pull down the cable wires. Even when they attach a cable to pick the vehicle up, they have to ground that cable, because if it has one spark from static electricity and there's a leak, that thing goes off. There is procedures. None of them were followed in Albany, the capital city of the state of New York. But listen to this one. That rollover crash in Exeter that happened just a few weeks later. Do you know that somebody that was in charge of first response from Albany drove all the way over when they heard it and shut the whole scene down? 12 hours they were there. They were trying to get out after a few hours, just release the thing and go. But he realized, if you read the story, which we can give you a copy of, he realized he really didn't know what he was doing. He just rushed over. So they didn't want to talk about it in Albany, but when the next crash happens a few weeks later, that guy drives 60, 70 miles over to Exeter to step in, like, so I'm here to help. Here he comes to ruin the day. Well, that's what he did. For the people there, they wanted to get this thing cleaned up. But the people nearby, that thing sat there for 12 hours with a potential risk. So we need to find out, that's the one. When you get these things, can you imagine? I mean, my dad's brain was always this, think of the worst. That thing rolls off the road, it's 8 in the morning, and the governor is now, his whole entourage of vehicles is going right past 87 to go to an event. He doesn't know what's going on. There's a truck lane down there, and somebody hooks a wire to it, and it goes bang. The governor's vehicles would be probably all the way across 87 on the other side of the road. That's how much explosive force we're talking about. Why do I think that way? Because my dad said, that's why I have 4 kids, they're all alive, my grandkids are alive, why my brother and sister are alive. My dad drilled it into us. You always are looking for the safe part, the safe place, have water available, have food. So we all have to think that way. This is not about just filling them up where we are. It's not about the people along the route, which is it's not about the station where they do it. It's about where they go next. We don't want to know, and we want to shut this one off, because it's unfair of Nicole's entire community and everyone along that 90-mile route to have to put up with this every day and have the danger in their backyard. Next question.
This is Dan Butterman, who's running for the 121st Assembly District.
Thank you.
Thanks. I just want to be really quick, because I'm sorry I have to step out and go get the kids. So to answer your questions about feedback, I want to touch on that just a little bit, then also sort of speak as a candidate as far as the things that I've done as feedback and questions as I've been campaigning. So the first thing I wanted to mention about your presentation is some economic input. on the
Sure.
side itself. I think you did a great job in pulling on heartstrings and talking about the drivers themselves and the injuries and the risks that they take with their own lives by driving these trucks. I think that was very good. But I had the question, I was thinking about what's the economic impact every time that truck goes by? And I'm sure there's some data you can put on there.
Sure.
That'd be the first part. And the second part is we talk about speaking in the positive as opposed to the negative, not just resist, but also say, what do you want to advance? And I don't want to take this as a stump speech moment, but a little bit. In that, last week, I know that there's some familiar faces here, some friends and some new acquaintances. Last week I spent 3 days in Los Angeles at Al Gore's Climate Reality Project leadership training. And two things that they talked about there was how regulation can and legislation can open up doors of innovation. And you have to focus on the heart of it and also the economics of it, and as far as how you can appeal to someone's interests. And I think that's an interesting way of posing the argument, saying, well, you can do this because this is the right thing to do. The trucks are not safe, or the routes that they're taking are not safe, but also what's the alternative economic impact? And so that's part of the thing that I want to talk about more, even through the rest of my campaign, hopefully it lasts more than a week, is how we can invest in renewables. And while I was there, the California State Legislature had passed a bill saying that we're going to mandate clean energy 100% by 2045.
Yep.
That's something I think we can do in the state legislature here, is to mandate what it is that we expect for our energy productions to say by 2045, 2030, or 2050, this is the deadline, let's find a way to get there.
Thank you.
So that's what I'm going to try to focus on, hopefully with Joyce as a colleague in the Senate.
Let me go right down the
Sorry,
list.
I'm walking out not because I don't want to be here, but I guess you go to bed.
Yep, thank you very much. So economics, you're right, I would like to put some in. Thank you for being here tonight. First of all, everyone needs to know, want to know how much one of those trailers costs? Just the trailer, between $500,000 and $650,000 each. That's 2/3 of $1 million. And the tractor is between $100,000 and $150,000 each. So they rolled over 5, that's close to $1 million each. We're talking about $4 million just in the cost of the vehicles, and they are junk, they're paperweights when they do that. So Bill and I questioned that too. I'm a financial guy, I own my own business. How much can they be making? We figured out, even with 11 tons of methane, you know what the retail value of that product is in that truck per load? $2,000. It's not gold. So we wondered, what are they doing? What are they doing this for? This was a proof of concept. It's the first place in the world we've ever found them doing pipe to pipe. I told Wes this, even the smartest people we know in this area about pipeline fights that helped us work on the Constitution pipeline and kill it, said there is no way, Craig and Bill, they are transporting pipe to pipe. It isn't happening. You know where we found that they were doing it? On Iroquois' own website. You can go on it today and find out. They're moving 55 decatherms a day of gas from their station in Forest Lake Township, Pennsylvania, to Mannheim. And they call the Iroquois Pipeline Project the So-No. That's a north-south pipeline, but they're reversing it to south to north. My belief, and I don't know if this is true, I'm hoping it's not, but I believe the gas is going north. What's up north that they have to cook to get the tar sands oil out of the sand? They need gas to do it. That's what the flame they use to do it. I'm afraid they're using extracted gas, running up the pipe, running it through the neighborhood dangerously, and part of what they're doing is going north with it to use for whatever they're going to do it, heating in the winter, but how about cooking the tar sands oil, which is called bitumen, out? So there's a concern. Financially, I have no idea how they're staying in business. Who's insuring them, by the way? Anybody here an insurance person? Because if in 18 months you ruin $4 million worth of trucks, injured drivers, got to go to the hospital, we're talking probably extrapolating tens of millions of dollars just in that. And they got to operate every day. Here's how you choke this. You shut them down, whether it's not weighing them properly, their track record of crashes, whatever. But as soon as they stop driving, they have millions of dollars of vehicles sitting there. They own what, Bill? I think 30 or 40 of the trailers, and then they run them back and forth. The tractors they own more of, because they'll sit the trailers, but the tractors go back and forth. So you've got a huge inventory. Go ahead, Vera.
I wanted to make some comments that I just thought of. But when I've spoken to the workers, the drivers, and periodically they stop at gas stations on my road and on my route, and I'll talk to them, or when I went to Mannheim, and in front of the XNG plant in Forest Lake, there's always a sign looking for drivers. they lose drivers. There's a tremendous turnover, and they said it to me personally, the drivers, that they can't keep their drivers because after a while they see what's going on. It's a poorly run organization, and they're not really working with the people in the best way. And they also are turning off the managers. They have a big turnover of the managers in Mannheim and out here. So they're not able to run it properly. And the other idea I had is they're actually possibly somehow inspired, maybe by the industry, maybe funded behind the scenes by the industry, because what they're trying to do is to show us that you need your pipelines. So if you don't give us your pipelines, we're going to keep putting out these trucks, these companies, because my county supervisors, what they said to me when I speak out at the meetings during the month, we have public meetings, they said to me, you're stopping the pipelines, this is what you're going to get. So now you've got these bomb trucks. So I feel like it's a plan of the industry somehow behind the scenes. We're going to keep pumping these out. Now you're going to get 3 in your county. We're going to send out hundreds of trucks, and you're going to beg us for the pipelines. So that's kind of what's going through my head from when I'm hearing what the supervisors who are pro-gas, they love gas in my county. They don't want to fight it. But this is what I'm thinking, something's happening here.
Thanks, Vera. So think of that, guys, and I'll get your question in a minute, but I don't care whether you call it a virtual pipeline, it's a pipeline in the ground, pipeline in the air, whatever it is, it's not happening. I mean, it carries the product. Blood diamonds, it carries the product that kills people when they extract it in their neighborhoods. Breathing problems, asthma, contaminated water. Forget it, guys. I'm not interested. If this was like fairy dust and unicorn horns and nobody was getting harmed, then maybe we could think about it. This is a joke, and they want us to stick to that. Who has kids here? I have 4. None of them have a phone attached to a wire. They don't print with a wire. They don't want any wires or anything attached to their house. Solar is the only way to do that. Bring the power in, run your property, send the excess energy out to your friends. Instead of coming in with energy, we're pushing it out. And I use the farm analogy. You don't grow just enough food for your family if you're trying to make money with it. We also don't sell everything and starve your family to do it. So there's a middle ground there. Does anybody know the price of gas and oil has plummeted down and now it's trying to climb back up? It's still nowhere near where they can make money. And anybody see the Wall Street Journal? $883 billion in debt, the oil and gas industry. That's almost $1 trillion of debt. You want to talk financials? They can't drill their way out of a problem they drilled their way into. That's what my dad said in 2007. Because they were already having problems. Cannot drill your way out of a problem you drilled your way into. More product goes on the market, the price plummets, and they can't export enough to make it go back up. You had your hand up, ma'am.
I have a question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, the lady over here.
Oh, thank you. I didn't see you moved.
I wonder, knowing more about the financials of these individual specific transport companies,
Yes.
particularly XNG, but the other 2 as well, I think it'd be very helpful in a variety of ways. What I'm wondering, for example, is are these publicly traded companies or are these privately owned?
Private corporations.
So that means that there are specific individuals that are responsible for making decisions and presumably not interested in having details about their financial circumstances being public. And I think the more we know about how they operate financially, and the more public we can make that, the more pressure can be placed on them. Now, this brings me to a point about your presentation.
Yes.
And that is that, while I find it really provocative to know that their financial situation is tenuous, and I find it promising that their financial situation is tenuous, for the general public, that might lead to people saying, well, if they're going to go out of business anyway, why do I have to do anything about
Correct.
it? All I have to do is wait it out. So the way you frame that, probably you want to go into a little bit more detail in that part of your talk,
Yes.
and you want to emphasize that as further evidence of irresponsibility. But you want to find a way to do that doesn't just say, well, they're going to go. It doesn't just lead people to conclude.
I agree. Thank you for the feedback on that one. Let me tell you something. We should do slides with the entire board of directors of these companies, because you know where every single one of them come from. What industry do you think they're coming from to start these companies?
Oil and gas.
No, investment bankers. Every single one of them. Investment bankers. So, yeah, oil and gas maybe, but they are investment bank money. That's what's, when they set this thing up, that's $10 million to set up the facility in Forest Lake in the middle of nowhere. 10 million or however many million to do Mannheim. $100 million in trucks and tractors and insurance and tags and apportionment and all this stuff. And you're like, by the way, we didn't talk about it, but when you put CNG tractors on the road, guess what happens? CNG tractors don't have low end torque, and CNG powered tractors don't have Jake brakes. Wait till you see in Herkimer when they're coming over the hill and they drop down. It's got steep grade, a runaway truck ramp, and a check your brake area. You have to use the brakes to stop that truck going down the hill. You can't use the engine because it's not a diesel engine, and they want to use the CNG because they want to fill them up at the same time at the place as they're filling up the trailers. That saves them money, right? We can't figure out either. XNG owns the facility as a separate corporation in Forest Lake. The trucking activity is a separate corporation, and Mannheim's location is separate. So they're extracting it as one corporation, selling it to the driving one, and it's being bought by the end one. And guess what? They're all the same company. That's got to be something wrong with that too. So we're looking at that part, but what to get your attention is we want people, number one, I'm hoping we're showing you what they look like, where they're driving now, and to keep an eye out for it. In other words, look for them trying to put these filling stations in your area too. Any other questions?
Greg?
I was just going to wind up a little bit. Oh, you're going to ask?
Yeah, so I had something really quick.
Yeah,
that is, Hexagon is one of the two manufacturers. There's two primary manufacturers. There's a third one that we have to watch for called Cat CNG. That's the one to watch for. Of the trailers, yes. So of the two, there is Hexagon. The U.S. version is called Hexagon Lincoln, Nebraska. That's where it used to be called Lincoln Composites. They are troubled financially. I wouldn't say that they're in receivership. They're a Norwegian company and they're publicly traded. So this is Hexagon is a publicly traded company. Quantum Fuel Systems, the actual name of the company of Quantum Fuel Systems is called QF Liquidations. They were it was like a hostile takeover. They were in bankruptcy. They were bought by a venture capital firm. So when you call, can you imagine picking up the phone and calling for your warranty service on your VP Light trailer, and they answer the phone, QF Liquidations, may I help you? That's not going to give you like a warm, fuzzy feeling, is it? So, but they're DBA, doing business as Quantum Fuel Systems, even though if you read the bankruptcy papers, it says you can't use the word quantum in your name. They're still doing it. Anyway, I just want to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole?
Are there any more questions?
Hi, Craig.
Thanks, Keith.
First of all, outstanding presentation. My hats goes off to you and to Bill for putting this.
And Vera, thank you for opening.
You're very compelling. Excellent.
Thanks, Keith. That's a big compliment from you, especially with your expertise on all this week. And we're looking forward to feedback from you, especially.
Well, one of the things I would say is show the map, the map of the virtual pipeline that goes from Pennsylvania up to Mannheim, and then show where all those accidents are out on the route.
Yeah, we have one. Bill's got one, so we'll put that right in and make sure it's highlighted.
Yeah, that's one thing I'd suggest. But one of the things that people ask is, well, how does this company still making money when they're rolling over vehicles?
They don't care.
Well, I mean, one of the ways that they're making money is by having by reducing their costs, and one way of reducing costs is by not putting as much money into their capital expenses, or in other words, having somebody else do it for them. That's what's happening here in Oneonta. That's the proposal. Because when XNG put together their Mannheim facility, they had to build it themselves. Okay, They didn't do a very good job of that. They didn't pay their bills. They didn't pay their contract. And actually, there's a lawsuit over that. There's a mechanics lien put against the Forest Lake facility. Am I right about that? I think that's what happened. So now the answer seems to be, well, let's keep our costs down by having us, the taxpayers and ratepayers, NYSEG, build a facility for them. So that's basically what's going on here. Is X&G is having us build a facility for them because they seem to not be able to do it themselves. To me, this is really appalling, and I want to add that one of the individuals who's specifically doing this and helping them work the system and get this grant is Senator Seward. Okay, he is working specifically with Otziga now to lobby for this, to try to grease the wheels and have these things happen. Another reason to elect Joyce here and tell Senator Seward to go home. But anyway, so that's basically what I had to say. Also, I just wanted to say that in terms of looking forward, where do we go in the future? Well, this is where real planning needs to take place, and I'm hoping that can occur here within our region. Because if the answer is going to be, well, we can only grow the way we've grown in the past, industry, we have that same kind of industry we have, well, then it's going to be gas, okay?
Right.
If that's the only future we can think about, then we've pigeonholed ourselves into a future that's going to rely on more gas. The questions we should be asking is, what kind of growth makes sense for this community? And how can we do that responsibly? How can we do that with the resources we have? And what kind of energy we need to make that happen? How can we grow renewables in a way that's compatible with the community and with the energy needs that we have?
Thanks, Keith. And I'd like to show of hands who wish they would have brought at least one other or a neighbor to see this tonight, because I'll tell you what, this place next time we come, this place should have 600 people in here, because they're going to, when they find out what's really going on, they're going to be like, oh, I hope they're not driving theirs near me. And you go, the only way to do it, we got to stop them completely. And we don't have to pick on them. Here's the problem, and Keith brought up part of it. Well, we got this virtual route, right? And so the issues that I found is when you're a company and you're bleeding money out, what do? The first thing you do is you cut your maintenance down, and the drivers, you start hiring lower end drivers, which is what they did. They went from $50 an hour drivers to $20 an hour drivers, so $21.50. Woo! Those people always just want to be working, but they don't know what they're doing. That's my pilot. I'd like my pilot to get paid $150,000 a year, because I don't want my pilot being fresh out of pilot school on my 747 that's got my whole family and they go on a vacation over the Pacific Ocean, because we might have a problem. By the way, my dad was a pilot lifetime. My brother's a hurricane hunter, so my dad was real specific about that. When you get in a plane with somebody, make sure they know what they're doing, because when you get up there, it's a bad time to find out they don't know how to figure it out. So the financial is important, but we don't want to put people to sleep. But we don't understand. Every time they rolled one of these trucks, that was $1 million they lost. $1 million. And their insurance company, I don't know if they're self-insuring now or who they're doing, but there's another one we could look at. They better not be self-insuring, and they better be covering for whatever they're having happen. But they're doing a thing called slip seating. We didn't cover it. Anybody know what that means from the professional driving industry? Guy pulls up, he gets out, another one climbs right back in the same truck. They don't even do an inspection, they just take off. Because they have to do 2 round trips in 10 hours. And it takes close to 4+ hours to drive, 4.5 hours each way. So they got to jump right out, jump another guy in, and take off again. And these guys are running that just like that. They're tired, they're overworked, they're underpaid, the mechanical problems on the truck, and they know what happens when you flip one over. They sit you there. The guy in the second accident we heard was sitting there for 10 hours on the side of the road injured. 10 hours. That alone, that is like torture. People should be taken to jail for holding somebody in an accident away from and even most of them are there for more than 2 hours next to the road. They don't just run over and grab you and take you, because they want to do all that testing and they want to blame you. So they have to have you sit there and grill you, and were you drinking, and do you have drugs? So I don't like the way they're treating their workers either, and we should look at that. But any other one? There you go. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, hi. You mentioned that in Fenton, the community won using Article 78. So
they filed 2 Article 78s, not only Fenton, but also Broome County did too.
So could you explain that, please?
Yeah, so an Article 78 is something that's available in New York State, and it's got a certain length of filing time where they have to follow certain rules. Bill knows about it better, but they were able to write it very quickly with some lawyers, both Broome County. When Broome County was answering to the Planning Commission who had approved this, but they still had some things left to do. Broome County sent a list of 32, I believe, reasons why they don't want this thing anywhere near in their county. They don't want it in their county. And then other communities were stepping up. So Nicole might know better on Article 78, but it's got a timeline. You have to file certain things. It's use the rules that the state has, and it's to argue against something. Go ahead, Nicole, if you know what that is.
Yeah, just quickly, I know a little bit about the proceedings, and basically they were won at the local level. The planning board ultimately refused to grant them a special use permit. There were some Article 78s filed in between, but they built the local opposition and they won in the planning board. An Article 78 proceeding is a remedy, you have action that prejudices you. So it's a very limited remedy. There's a lot of discretion shown to the governmental agency. You don't want to rely on Article 78. You want to get your local politicians, your local government officials to know that the community opposes a project before it gets off the ground. And that's really how I would recommend we sort of conclude tonight. First, and foremost, we say no to a local project that is inappropriate, inconsistent with our comprehensive plan, as Dr. Donnelly has recently emphasized. O'Donnell, sorry. And so we insist that our local governments comply with the fracking bans and fracking infrastructure bans and fracking wastewater bans that are already on the books in most of our Otsego County towns. And we have now comprehensive plans in a lot of our towns. I know that we are beginning to develop a list of all the comprehensive plans. That's a first stop. And that's what we're going to have to do here in Oneonta, because in Oneonta there is a proposal and we are going to fight that proposal as a community, I believe. What's happened in Mannheim, as I mentioned, and it's happening elsewhere throughout the whole Northeast. This industry is being funded by investment bankers. They think that there is an arbitrage here. Right now they can get the gas delivered cheaply. There's a desire for it, of course. So they are just using their funds to get a small profit, not even as much as they'd like. So we need to increase their cost of doing business, right? We have to demand the DOT and the Federal Department of Transportation to insist that they are on interstate roads. Yes, they're going to have to pay tolls. Just not paying tolls is one of the main reasons they want to be on local roads. So we have to insist that they are on the bigger roads. We have to insist that they comply with speed limits and weight limits. And we have to demand perhaps a moratorium while these machines, these trucks, are further tested. And eventually, through regulation, if we ever made this safe, if we ever provided enough insurance and enough medical response and emergency response and paid for all that, I submit it will become cost prohibitive and it will die its own death. So that must be, we have to have an immediate local response and a broader statewide regional response that if you're going to do this, you're going to have to regulate it. And eventually, if that doesn't work, I suppose people will begin clamoring for another ban, and a ban on pipe-to-pipe transfers except in an emergency situation or something. But I think those are the three steps.
Thanks, Nicole. And the last thing, know that everywhere they went, they said they were just setting up a compressor station, and most of these planning commissions were used to compressor stations. We have 52, as Vera said. They thought this was just another compressor station. Everywhere, it was like, Fenton, oh, it's just compressor stations. Bill and I are like, are you going to talk about the trucks that are going to be driving in and out?
Okay, so I don't want to correct you too much.
Yes.
But here in New York, we've started looking at what has been done with our PSC. They haven't all been permitted just as compressor stations. That is how Mannheim snuck through.
Yep.
But at Mechanicsville, they clearly were a pipe-to-pipe. They were using the winter peak need as the justification.
Right.
And there is an exemption in our state law with respect to PSC jurisdiction. PSC jurisdiction doesn't attach if you're delivering gas in a sealed container. So initially, when they were just doing the pipeline extraction of gas for delivery, they said, well, PSC jurisdiction doesn't attach because this is gas in a sealed container. In Mechanicsville, where they wanted to supply energy for peak winter months by injecting into an existing pipeline, NYSEG tried to argue, once again, it fit within the exemption because the pipes, the pipeline was being fed by trucks bringing the gas in sealed containers. PSC said no. At that point, they said no, that is not the right answer. You are bringing it in, but then you're hooking up some pipelines to actually get it into the existing pipeline. So we will take jurisdiction over it, but then they immediately concluded that NYSEG was doing everything great at Mechanicsville, so in effect, it became a dead end, as I call it. So the point is, they are beginning to lay the groundwork for supplying pipe to pipe throughout the Northeast. And they are using the argument that this is a virtual pipeline, so therefore it's better than an in-ground pipeline, and really it's just better because they can avoid a lot of the regulation and the environmental investigation, and basically the communities sometimes don't get organized in time to block it. So we're getting organized. We hope that through your work and the publicity you can generate, by the way, you must put the New York Attorney General on that list of people to contact.
Definitely.
And with that, I think it's time to close. I think everyone needs to
Thank you.
home. We thank you, Craig Stevens, Bill Huston,
Vera.
Eddie for filming.
Eddie, thank you, Eddie.
And everyone, Vera Scroggins, who's here, of course, and everyone who's here in the audience, everyone who asked a question, everyone who's going to go back now and think about a solution and make sure at least we don't have another one of these compressor stations, decompressor stations in Oneonta.
Thank you, everybody. I'll have my card with me, so if anybody doesn't have my contact information already, and then Bill, we have it up on the slide, but we want to hear from you. This is not a one-party thing. We're not giving you information. We want to hear back too. Thank you.